Good morning everyone. Welcome back to the session on verbal reasoning. In the first session in the morning I have discussed with you the concept of arguments, and in this class of verbal reasoning I will be discussing with you the short paragraph questions that come in exams. I am separately categorizing them as short paragraphs because it's a lengthier in terms of reading, almost like a short reading comprehension, and most of the questions are inference based questions. So inference as a concept I have discussed earlier also with you. So using the same concepts we will be discussing these short reading comprehension, against the short paragraph questions that are there in the examination in the reasoning section. Usually these questions come in a set of 5, so a short reading passage is given to you which is followed by 5 questions. So if you can crack the passage you can get 5 marks in the exam directly. Now as I said that these are questions based on inference, and inference as a concept we have discussed earlier also. Inference means what? An inference is a logical conclusion. If you want to study and understand more about inference, you can watch our video on inference and assumptions and inferences, where you will get more understanding about assumptions and inferences that can come as a short paragraph question. Okay, so what is an inference that we have discussed? An inference is a conclusion, but not all conclusions are logical conclusion that we can arrive after reading a particular paragraph or a passage or a statement. A logical conclusion, it will never be mentioned in the paragraph. That is also very important to understand. An inference is never explicitly mentioned in the paragraph. It will always be implied, implicit. Implicit means hidden and explicit means clear and open. So an inference will never be directly worded in the paragraph, but it is something that you have to understand after reading the content. Clear? So our inference making skills are tested in these questions. How can we read for the underlying information? Okay. Again we have something called as assumptions. So assumptions are those things that we take for granted while making an inference. We are not looking for assumptions in this short paragraph questions. We are not looking for assumptions, we are looking for inference. So what we will do today is to understand these short reading paragraph questions and understand how inferences can be made, and discuss a lot about applying our concepts that we have learnt earlier in the class of assumptions and inference in solving these short paragraph questions. Okay, and we will do that entirely through problem discussion. But before we begin with the discussion on inference, let us just look at this previous session CPP question. Now this is from the CPP of data sufficiency second session, that is reasoning based questions from data sufficiency. So here we have a question. It says Aman Binod, just a minute, let me just change the color of the ink here. Okay. So Aman, Binod, Chetan, David, Ehsan and Firoz, basically A, B, C, D, E and F, are sitting in around a circular table facing the center. How many persons are there between Ehsan and Firoz, between E and F? How many persons are there if counted clockwise from Firoz, not anti-clockwise? Okay, alright. So let's look at the first statement. What do we do in data sufficiency? I am sure if you have watched the video you have seen, we always start by understanding the question and then trying to solve the question using the first statement alone, without borrowing any concept, any data, any clue from the second statement. Just from the first statement, what can we do? Binod and Ehsan sit adjacent to each other, and Binod is on the immediate left of Firoz. Now there are 5 persons here, 6 persons, so let us do one thing, let us make a circle. 6 persons, all of them are facing the center. Let us say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, as equidistant as possible. There are 6 persons. Binod and Ehsan sit adjacent to each other, and Binod is on the immediate left of Firoz. We will start from this one. Binod is on the immediate left of Firoz. So let me put F here. Now Firoz is facing the center, Binod is on the immediate left of Firoz. If a person is facing the center, right is in the anti-clockwise and left is in the clockwise direction. Okay, this also we have seen earlier in the circular seating arrangement class. So Binod is on the immediate left of Firoz, so this will be the position of Binod with respect to Firoz. Clear? And Binod and Ehsan sit adjacent to each other. Binod and Ehsan sit adjacent, they are immediate neighbors. So if Binod is here, already on the right hand side of Binod we have Firoz. So if Binod and Ehsan are adjacent to each other, then Ehsan should be on the left hand side of Binod. So that is E. So we get our EBF. Now the question is, how many persons are there between Ehsan and Firoz, between E and F, if counted from the clockwise from Firoz? That means if we count in this direction clockwise. You can see here one person is there, B, only one person is there between Ehsan and Firoz when counted from the clockwise. If we count anti-clockwise, there are 3 persons, 1, 2, 3. That means we can solve this question from the first statement alone. So that is how we can look at this, and if you look at the second statement, you are not going to get the answer from the second statement. So the answer is solution 1. There is just one statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. So you can try making a circle again. The same thing we can do as we have done for statement 1, we can do it for statement 2 also. You will see that you are not getting the solution. Answer for this question is statement 1. Alright. Now let us continue with the class for today. So this was the discussion of the previous session CPP question. Let us start directly by understanding a short reading comprehension or short paragraph question based on inferences. So normally this is a template of a question type. Read the passage and the inferences that follow, and then for each inference mark the answer as A. So we have to read the passage and the inferences. There will be some number of inferences. Now you don't have to make the inferences. Those who have said the question for you have given a number of inferences. Now you have to find out whether the inferences are right or wrong. Now what is the meaning of right or wrong? We are looking at right and wrong in terms of degrees also here. If you think that the answer is definitely true, 100% true, without any doubt this inference is right, then you will say that the answer is A. Clear? When there is no doubt, there is no confusion, and the inference is 100% true. Okay. For example, if I tell you that based on a recent survey report published in a newspaper, based on a recent survey report published in a newspaper, the number of people owning 4 vehicles in Bangalore has gone up by 20% as compared to the previous year. Let us take this example sentence, that based on a survey report published in a newspaper today, let us say published in a newspaper today, the number of people who own 4-wheelers of cars in Bangalore has gone up by 20% as compared to the previous year. Now from this we can make a definite inference. What is the definite inference? That a similar survey must have been done last year. Otherwise how are we able to compare? If we don't have data from the last year, how can we tell that the number has gone up by 20%? Yeah. So a similar survey must have been done last year. This is a definite inference. This is what we mean by something is definitely true. Yeah. There is no doubt or confusion regarding that. Now if you say that, if you think that the answer is probably true, that is, it may be true, may be false, so it is more inclined to true, it seems that it is very likely to happen, but you cannot be 100% sure about it. So if I tell you that okay, the number of people owning 4-wheelers in Bangalore has gone up, I can say that okay, that means there could be an inference that the average income of people in Bangalore has increased. Now how are people able to afford 4-wheelers, right? How are people able to buy cars, and why has the number of cars gone up in Bangalore by 20% in just 1 year? That means there is a likelihood that the average income of people has increased, but we cannot be 100% sure about it. Clear? We can be sure, we can think it's a very proper, it's a correct inference to make, but not something that we can be 100% confident of. That is what will become probably true, probably, maybe, perhaps, right. If data provided is inadequate to answer the question, suppose we tell you that, okay, that means that the number of people taking loans, or let's say for example the number of people coming to Bangalore from outside has increased, number of people coming to Bangalore from outside has increased based on the statement that the number of car owners has increased. Now this data, we cannot say data provided is inadequate to answer the question. So that is what we mean by something is inadequate. We don't have information, we don't have sufficient information to say that this increase in number of car owners is because of influx of people into Bangalore, that we cannot tell. If the answer is definitely false, now what does it mean? It means that the inference that is given to you goes against what is mentioned in the paragraph. Clear? The paragraph says or says X and the inference is going towards Y, then that will say that it is definitely false. It is in clear contradiction of what is explicitly mentioned in the paragraph or passage. Okay, then we say that it is definitely false. For example, if we take this example of the number of car owners in Bangalore has gone up by 20%, and if the paragraph says that the average income of people in Bangalore has decreased, now this is going against, it's contradicting the finding of the survey. The survey finds that people are owning cars. Now cars don't come for free and it's an expensive luxury item. So if the number of car owners has gone up, we cannot say that the average income has come down. It's diametrically opposite to what is given to us, right. So that is what an inference is definitely false. And E is if the answer is probably false, correct. That is when something can be false but we are not very sure about it, right. For example, saying that the number of people in public transportation has decreased, that could be true but that could be false, it could be probably false. It's not very clear that okay, those people who were earlier travelling in public transportation have now gone and purchased car. No, that is not sufficient information regarding this. So that is what we could say as probably false. So understand the meaning of these statements. Definitely true, you are 100% sure about it. Probably true, that means it may be true, right. There is a likelihood, there is a chance, right. There should be a good chance, more than 50%. There is a likelihood that this particular inference can be right. If data provided is inadequate, not sufficient, we cannot comment on it, we cannot say whether it is true or false, then it will be C. D means if it is definitely false, 100% false, clearly opposite what is mentioned, diametrically opposite of what is given in the paragraph, right, and directly opposes a definite inference. It could directly be opposite of a definite inference also, then also it will become definitely false. And probably false means it may be false, we are not very sure about it, but it looks like very less likelihood is there of this particular thing happening. Now here we have a paragraph, so you can see almost 150 to 160 words are there in a paragraph. That's why we said it's almost like a short reading passage. But the good thing is that once you solve this, you get 5 marks directly in the exam. So Indian granite industry is in peril. Again, peril means danger, problem. So as I am telling you that you need to have a good vocabulary, just like you need to have good vocabulary and awareness for solving reading comprehension questions in exams. You need to have good vocabulary, good reading speed, ability to read and understand, comprehend, clear, ability to understand what is given to you and have basic idea of the terminologies being discussed here. You cannot say that I don't know why have they asked this question. So the Indian granite industry is in peril, problem, in the absence of uniform policy, single policy. Why is it in peril? Because of absence of uniform policy from the state government. That means all the different states in India may have different policies with respect to the granite industry, and it is because of this, very clearly the author is saying it is because of this that the Indian granite industry is in peril. Despite, even though the thrust, the support, the word thrust here means support, given by liberalization. What is liberalization? free market strategy where one country can trade freely with other countries and other countries can also do the same, right. Liberalization policies of the union government, this is central state governments are not cooperating, they do not have uniform policies, but the union government is trying to support the granite industry. So despite the thrust, despite the support given by the union government, how has union government supported it? By liberalization policies. Maybe it has reduced taxes on exporting granite. In the last 2 years, compared to the remarkable progress in the field during the last 3 years. That means the last 3 years, the field, the granite industry field has done remarkably well in the world maybe, The absence of matching policies by state governments had put granite quarry owners. Absence of matching policies, that means in the world granite industry is doing very good in the last 3 years. But we do not have matching policies. By whom? By the state government. Had put granite quarry owners, people who are owning the granite quarries, mining, quarry means mining, mines, and others involved in the industry, that means the laborers, the workers, right, on the verge of collapse, almost on the brink of collapse, it's almost going to collapse, get destroyed. Verge means edge, right, was on the verge of an accident just when he got saved, almost going to have an accident when he got saved in the international market. So our industry will collapse in the international market. Where? In the international market. The policies differed from, again we are explaining again here, the policies differed from state to state, had created problems as far as loyalty. It's not loyalty, should be royalty. See, we don't have loyalty, we have royalty. Royalty, dead rent and duration of lease were concerned. So 3 main things are there. What are the 3 main problems? One is royalty. What is royalty? When you take lease of a mine. Now, see, all mines are owned by the country, and the country means represented by the government. So mines are owned by the government, central or state. So if you want to use the mines, you have to take the mines on lease for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from the state government, right. For that much time, that much duration, the government gives you permission to use the mines, to extract the mineral ores for your industry or for other reasons, for exporting, for whatever purpose. Clear? On the mines, the government charges you a royalty based on how much mineral ore you are extracting. You have to pay royalty because you are depleting the natural resources of the earth, which indirectly belongs to the people and then belongs to the government, because the government itself is of the people, right. So you are depleting natural resources, you have to pay a royalty for that, a kind of a fine for that. You are using, depleting something which is not renewable. Once you take it out, you can't replenish it, you can't put it back. Next is, you also have to pay rent. So that is what is called rent. So you are paying rent for the lease that you have taken, irrespective of whether you mine or you don't mine. You have taken a mine on lease, but you don't have mining equipments, you don't have laborers, you don't have money to extract the mineral ore from the earth, but since you have taken a lease, you have to pay rent, irrespective of what you are doing, whether you are getting profit or not. That is why it is also called dead rent. Now it is not necessary to know these things to answer these questions, it is just I am adding to your awareness, to your GK, right. So because of royalty, because of dead rent and duration of lease, the mining industry is in peril, and mainly because of lack of uniform policy. So when we read this, we understand every concept that is given. Every keyword can play an important role in finding out, in determining what is the right answer for the question, okay. That is how we read, with understanding, with comprehension. This is why we also call it as critical reading questions. You have to be critical while reading, you can't just read superficially. So overall information is that Indian granite industry is in problem because of lack of uniform policies from state governments, correct. Although the central government is trying to help it by keeping liberal policies regarding international trade. So that is why the granite industry is in peril, and most of the owners of these granite quarries, mines, almost on the verge of collapse in the international market, even though the granite industry is doing well in the last 3 years, right. Many problems are there like royalty, dead rent and lease time. Let's go to the questions. Again, I have given the same paragraph here, the paragraph is same, just for reference. While answering the questions, I can explain to you. The granite production is largely controlled by individuals. Is it? Now again, answer option A is definitely true, B probably true, C we cannot determine, D definitely false, E probably false. You will have the answers on the screen for you while you are attempting the question in the examination. The granite production is largely controlled by individuals. Is it A, B, C, D, E? Going from definitely true to false. Definitely false, probably false. You see here, it's very clearly mentioned here, granite quarry owners, right. So it's very clearly mentioned here. So you can say that this is definitely true. A. It is owned largely by individuals, owners. Okay. The granite production is largely controlled by individuals. Second one, the granite produced in India does not match with the quality of international level. That means the granite produced at the international market by the foreign granite producers. Our granite, that is granite produced in India, does not match with that. Now, is it mentioned anywhere? We know that the Indian granite industry is on the verge of collapse in the international market, but because of what? Because of lots of problems which are there. Matching policies are not there, problem of dead rent, royalty and so on and so forth, but nowhere does it tell you about the quality. There is no comparison of quality, so this will become C. We don't know. Sufficient information is not there regarding this particular thing. Third one, the union government's liberalization policy became applicable to the granite industry only during the last 2 years. The union government's liberalization policy became applicable to granite industry only during the last 2 years, whether it is A, B or C, D, E. Now we know that there is this thrust given by liberalization policies. The thrust was given, support was given to the granite industry by liberalization policy. So answer is either A or B, definitely true or probably true. But we know very clearly in the last 2 years, that means it is during the last 2 years that this liberalization policy was used to give a support, a push to the granite industry, and that is why this is definitely true. This inference is definitely true. Next one, fourth one. Each state having granite quarry has set up its own rules which are contrary to the interest of the industry. Right? Now, each state has set up its own rule which are contrary to the interest of the industry. That is definitely true. Now, we know that each state has its own rule. The policies differ from state to state. The policies differed from state to state, and this has harmed the granite industry severely. So this is probably true, not probably true, definitely true. It's very clear in the first one also. Absence of uniform policy from state governments has caused a big problem, peril of the granite industry. Till 3 years ago, granite production in India was not profitable. We don't have information about this, so it's beyond the scope of the discussion here. So what will be the answer? First one is A, that is definitely true. Second one is C, we cannot determine. Third one is A, definitely true. Fourth one is A, definitely true, and 5 is C, we cannot tell. This is exactly how the questions will come in your examination. Once you read the paragraph, you can solve the 5 questions without any difficulty. Just look at the way we have approached the question here. Okay, let's look at the second question based on the same thing. So here again we have the same answer options, definitely true, probably true. If the data provided is inadequate to answer the question, definitely false, probably false. Clear? So I'll directly take the question here. So we know the answer options A, B, C, D, E. The paragraph is here on the screen. The force of technological change will have an impact on the manufacturing industry. A very clear cut statement, it will have an impact on the manufacturing industry. There is no doubt about that, there is no discussion to be done about this. But the real effect, it will have an impact on the manufacturing industry. but the real effect will be on the information processing industry like software development, service industries like airlines, insurance and consulting, both technical consulting, managerial consulting, designing and executive jobs. These are the industries which will have the real impact. That means they will suffer more, or they will not suffer more, we can say that they will change more. The change, the technological change, the force of change, we know technology keeps changing every year. In fact, change is so fast in technology that it's difficult for businesses to adapt. The force, the pressure of technological change will impact manufacturing industries, but the real effect, the major impact will be on the services, information technology, airlines, all of these services. These are called services industry. The real impact will be on services. What does it mean? It means that services are more responsive to change in technology, correct? That is what it means. Why will there be more impact on this service sector? Because they are more responsive, they get more affected by change in technology, because they are directly run based on technology. That's information technology in the IT and ITES sector, and again prevalent through all these service sectors, finance, consulting, insurance, everything, airlines. Another feature of technological change by the end of century will be the resistance to change from within and outside the industry. That means there is a natural resistance to change from within and outside the organization. That means whenever there is a change in the business scenario, whenever something new happens, the existing industries initially try to resist it, try to resist the change that is natural, correct? For example, when the mobile phone industries had to face change in the form of smartphones, many industries tried to resist it because they had to change technology and everything else, but those industries which did not change were wiped out. Nokia, a case in point, which has now tried to come back in the smartphone industries with new smartphones. Clear? So whenever change happens, whenever something drastic happens, the first reaction sometimes, in most cases, is to resist that change. Okay? Alright. Satisfactory solutions will require a high degree of mutual cooperation between government and industry. Both government and industry must cooperate, and also cooperation between industry and its users. Management and unions will have to cooperate, and within organizations across functions people have to cooperate in order to adapt these changes, otherwise the industries will not be able to survive. So what is the point here? We start by saying that technological change in technology will impact the manufacturing sector, but it will have real impact on the services sector, and initially the companies will try to resist the change, but they will finally give up, and to come up with a solution all of us will have to work together, management, unions, industry, users, government, industry, everyone. So let us look at the first one. The information processing industry has been less amenable to change. Now if you do not know the meaning of amenable, this question is gone. You cannot solve this question if you do not know the meaning of the word amenable. The information processing industry, that means the IT industry, has been less amenable to change than the manufacturing industry, less responsive to change. Among the different meanings of the word amenable, compliant, we also have the word responsive, that is more applicable in this scenario. So now you read this statement: the information processing industry has been less responsive to change, technological change, than the manufacturing industry. Which industry will have greater impact? According to the paragraph, which industry will have greater impact? Manufacturing will be impacted, but the real impact, the real effect will be on information technology, services. If they are less responsive, then why is their impact greater on them as compared to manufacturing? That means they are more responsive. They are more responsive to technological change. Very, very clearly the passage tells you they are more responsive. That means this is definitely false. D. This is definitely false, without any doubt. Let's look at this second one. The technological change will affect only specific functions in an organization, leaving the others undisturbed. Do we have any sufficient information regarding the different functions inside an organization that will get impacted and the function that will not get impacted? No. What is the answer? C. Inadequate. Data is inadequate to comment on this. Third one. As compared to services industry, the manufacturing industry will be less affected by the technological change. Yes, very clearly. We know that the manufacturing sector will be impacted, but the real effect will be on information technologies. Yes, it is definitely true. Technological change has already set in. We don't have a very clear information regarding this, but we can see from the way the passage is going. The author talks about the effect will be more on this, and how people will have to cooperate. So he has some prior information, or he is seeing things happening. So that means it can probably be true. It will definitely not be false. It will not be probably false. This will be probably true. And people prefer status quo. Status quo means, again you need to know the meaning of status quo. Status quo means to let things be as they are. Let things not change. Although there is a hint here that there will be resistance to change, but that is based on only one aspect. For the industry, we can't generalize it for people. People prefer status quo. They don't like change. It's something that we cannot infer from any part of the paragraph. We don't have sufficient information. We can't say it is false. We can't say it is true. That is why the answer will become C. So you can look at the way we have approached this question. The benefit is that once you crack the paragraph, you get 5 marks, and it is not difficult. Once you know how to solve this question, I think these are the easiest questions in the paper. You need to be careful, have good vocabulary, understand the answer options clearly. That is what is needed. Now let's look at the previous session contest question. Find the odd one out from the options below. A, B, C, D, V. How are these related to each other? If you write A, B, C, D, naturally what should come next? E should come next. But what is there in the option V? What is the positional value of E in the alphabet 5? If A is 1, B is 2, what will be E? E will be 5. What is the positional value of V in the alphabet? 22. So T is 20, U is 21, V is 22. What is 5 plus 22? 27. Let's look at the second option now. A, B, C, D, E, F. What should come next? G should come next. But what is actually there? T is there. What is the value of G in the alphabet? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 7. And what is the value of T? 20. Add them, what do we get? 27. Look at C, A, B, X. What should come after A, B? C should come. But what is given here? X is given. What is the value of C? 3. What is the value of X? 24. What is 3 plus 24? 27. So A, B, C are same. That means I can simply mark the answer as D. D is the odd one out. Let's look at D also. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Right? So H and I, that is 9. In fact, G is also correct. So I think there is no odd one out here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I is equal to 9 and S is equal to 19. No, let's see. So I is equal to 9 because J is 10, I is equal to 9. And T is 20, so 19 plus 9, that is equal to 28. Yeah. So it's adding up to 28. D is the odd one out. 19 plus 8 is 27. It should be A, B, C, D, E, F. If it was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and instead of H, if we had S, this would have been right answer. Okay. So the answer is D is the odd one out for all the other answer options. We are replacing the last letter by the opposite letter. Remember, opposite letters are those letters which when you add the positional values will add up to 27, like A is the first letter, Z is the last, 1 plus 26, 27. Alright. Now let us look at the next question here for the contest time for today. How many pairs of letters are there in the word pending? Read the question very carefully. How many pairs of letters are there in the word pending, each of which has as many letters between the two letters as there are between them in the English alphabet? Read and try to understand the question. Right? Again, a very interesting question from letter based reasoning for you. So try to figure out what the question tells you, find out the answer and post that number. Post me the number of pairs that you can find here. Number of pairs of letters, where the number of letters between the two letters in the pair is same as number of letters between them in the English alphabet. Now, I will be discussing the answer to this question in my next video session. Let's continue with the question on short paragraph questions based on inference. Now, here we have a passage, 2 paragraphs, almost like 250 words you can say, almost like a reading comprehension itself. Let us look at this. The most recent case of euthanasia. What is euthanasia? I am telling you time and again that we need to have good vocabulary and awareness. Euthanasia means mercy killing. When a person is in terminally ill state or vegetative condition, he has no chance of surviving and he is in maybe a permanent coma or in great pain, and if the person wants to choose to end his life assisted by a doctor, an assisted death, this is called as euthanasia. The most recent case of euthanasia in India was that of a Mumbai couple who approached the courts. Well, this was quite in news. I think in 16 or 15, 2015, 16, it was quite in news, this particular case of a Mumbai couple who approached the court to seek medical termination, doctor assisted medical termination end of pregnancy after the legally permissible abortion time. That means in India it is legally permissible to abort the child up to a certain time. After that time you cannot choose or opt for abortion unless until government gives you permission for that. Clear? So there is a legally permissible time within which you can abort without having to ask permission from the government, ask permission from the court. That is a legally permissible abortion time. So this couple wanted to abort the child after the legally permissible abortion time was over. It had been crossed. Right? Why did they want to abort the child? Abort the child is a very bad thing. In India is suffering from feticide, and we now have strict rules regarding abortions, and gender detection of the fetus is illegal in our country because many people find out the gender of the fetus and then they abort the child. So something that our country is grappling with, suffering from. Now, why did this parent, now no parent wants to abort the child. Why did this couple want to abort the child? According to the parents, the fetus, when the baby is unborn in the belly of the womb of the mother, is called a fetus. The fetus had been detected to have serious disabilities. The fetus had been detected through ultrasonography to have serious disabilities which would affect the quality of life of the child if the child is born. So the parents were deciding on behalf of the child. Parents were deciding on the behalf of the child that this child, the doctor is saying, will be born with serious disabilities. So if the child is born, how will the child survive in this world? And what kind of life will the child have? What will be the quality of life for the child? This the parents were deciding. And that is why they wanted to abort the baby. Right? Now whether they were thinking more about the quality of life of the child or their own responsibilities with respect to taking care of a child suffering with serious disabilities, that we can't comment on. But that was their argument. Why? What was their argument? That we want to abort this child because the child will have to lead a life which will not be a kind of quality that a person deserves, and that is why we want to terminate it. Again, we don't know what was the agenda behind this particular intention of the Mumbai couple. Okay. The court denied them permission. The court denied them permission, giving its own logic. The court gave its own argument. Argument can also be called logic, underlining the unborn baby's right to life without right to live despite disabilities. That a person can be born with these disabilities yet can have a high quality of life. There are ample and numerous instances for this across the world. One of the most famous being Helen Keller. Helen Keller, who was blind, deaf, dumb, she could not speak, she could not hear, she could not see. Yet she went on to become an inspiration for millions of people across the world. The court was right in its logic that there have been numerous instances, numerous examples where a person has lived a very meaningful life, a very high quality life despite disabilities. So the child has a right to live. So why and who are the parents to decide on behalf of the child? This was the court's logic. Why they denied them the permission. That means the court, if finds it meaningful and justifiable, can give permission to abort even after the legally permissible time for abortion is over. That is the kind of jurisdiction courts in India have on this matter. Okay. So even after legally permissible time is over, the courts could have decided, yes, okay, you can go ahead with the abortion, we find your arguments to be valid. But the court did not find the argument to be valid. The court found the arguments to be shallow, and the court said that there are numerous instances of people who have gone on to live a very, very high quality life despite severe and serious disabilities. Fortunately or unfortunately, now the author's point of view, he does not want to say whether this was fortunate or unfortunate. The author is trying to play safe here. Fortunately or unfortunately, the issue was resolved in a different way when the mother suffered a miscarriage. Right? A miscarriage means the child dies in the womb a little later and lost the baby. So the parents, the couple who had applied for abortion had natural abortion, and they lost the baby. And the author is calling it fortunate, unfortunate is not very clear, because should he call the baby's death a fortunate event for the child or an unfortunate event for the baby who might have been born and would have gone on to do something in this world, right, that we cannot predict. So he is using the word fortunate or unfortunate. He is not very clear about what is his position. The author is not very clear about what is his position on this matter. Globally, now he gives a reference. Globally, in a landmark case, a British teenage girl won the right to die the way she wants. He is giving an example. Terminally ill, those who have no chance of recovery are called terminally ill. Hannah Jones, just 13 years old, has spent much of the past 8 years in hospital wards undergoing treatment for leukemia, a kind of a cancer. And she won the right to end her life assisted by a doctor. That is the landmark case the author is talking about. Euthanasia is complex because the issue is attached to ending life voluntarily. That is why it is complex. People have, governments have, societies have differing opinions on it, whether we should legalize it or we not legalize it. Surprisingly, author is surprised. Today, it has been legalized only in a handful of countries. That means author wants it to be legalized everywhere. He is surprised. How come? How come only few countries have legalized it? He is surprised about this fact. That means he is in favor of euthanasia. The author's point of view is implied here. It is implicit. We can infer here. But here too and elsewhere, the many forms of euthanasia have been taken into consideration. So you can say that yes, even if we legalize, we have to take into the various forms. The various forms of euthanasia: active, passive, right, voluntary, involuntary. So in most of the countries where euthanasia is legalized, it is active euthanasia, where the patient is in the census to determine that he wants to end his life. It's a long reading passage. Let's look at the questions here. We'll mark the answers A, B, C, D. You know what is A? The drill is clear. A definitely true, B probably true, C not possible to determine, D definitely false, and E probably false. The courts in India have the authority to sanction euthanasia very, very clear. That is why the couple had approached the court. Why else did they go? That means courts have the jurisdiction, the power to allow someone to apply or to go ahead with euthanasia. The courts have power. That is why the couple had gone to the court. Otherwise, what was the point? The courts consider the age of the fetus before granting permission for abortion. Yes, 100% right. Because we know very clearly that there is a legally permissible age. So when you go to the court, they will look at the age of the fetus before granting permission for abortion. So answer is definitely yes. It is fortunate that Mumbai couple lost the baby. Not clear. The author himself is not sure about it. He is saying unfortunate or unfortunate. So it is something that we cannot find, we cannot infer, we cannot give our personal opinion. When if I think that it was very unfortunate, I cannot say that is the answer. We don't have to use our personal opinions while solving such questions. Please keep that in mind. The author is against legalizing euthanasia. Definitely false. He was surprised as to why. Only in some countries it is legalized. This word surprisingly is giving away the fact that he is in support of euthanasia. The fifth one, the British courts allow anyone to die the way they want. Now this is a ridiculous inference to make, right? Just because an example is given to us that a teenage girl, 13-year-old, a terminally ill patient applied and she won the case, does not mean that British courts nowhere in the world will allow anyone to die. Clear? This is a very ridiculous inference here, so it's clearly, obviously, definitely, you can say it is definitely false. Not probably false, it is definitely false. So we have seen the answers for all the 5 questions and the way we approach these questions in exams. Yes, there's slightly time taking to read, but if you read them carefully, if you have good vocabulary, comprehension skills, and you understand the meaning of inference, inference is what we can logically understand, something that is not clearly mentioned in the paragraph, but something that is hidden in the paragraph, something that is implied in the paragraph. If you understand these things, solving and getting the answers for these short paragraph questions based on inference will not be difficult. Okay. So now is the time for the class practice pack, in which I have taken 10 questions from these short reading passages that you can try and understand how to get the answers for. Right. So those who have passport access, once you hear the sound, you can start solving the questions immediately, and the question which you get wrong, I will be discussing in my next session. So best of luck to you and thank you.